Hello, my name is Randy Silva, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the June 12th issue of the Rochester Business Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Tennis Club of Rochester, 140 Years of Tradition and Friendships, by Kevin Oklobzija. When the Tennis Club of Rochester celebrated its 140th anniversary, history obviously was front and center. A mural celebrating the club's milestone moments and prominent figures was unveiled, and longtime members were recognized during the events in late May. Since 1886, TCR has maintained a prominent position on the area's sporting landscape, celebrating the game, honoring tradition, and extending a legacy. Yet, with longevity comes a willingness to embrace change, and while tennis will always be the focal point, TCR has incorporated other racket and paddle sports into the club offerings. Along with 20 outdoor clay courts and 3 indoor hard courts at the property off Krieg Road in Parrington, there's a swimming pool, 4 courts for platform tennis, and a pickleball area. We do realize we've become so much more than just tennis, said Deanna Kernan, the club's general manager. Tennis is obviously the driving force that has sustained this club, but we do find that most of our members enjoy having the pool, enjoy playing paddle tennis, and the same with pickleball. And understanding that ongoing upgrades are always necessary, along with a willingness to change with the times, have been instrumental in ensuring the value of a membership, she said. That's one reason Kernan was behind the pickleball movement when the game began to gain popularity across the country. I felt like we should join them instead of fight them, she said. I could see it was definitely becoming a huge trend within the racket sports industry. In 2018, I went to the board and proposed that we add 4 pickleball courts on a hard court that was not being used very much. Said Nam Grazik-Dan, the club's membership and marketing director. I know some tennis players might be contentious with pickleball treading on their turf, but I think we can definitely coexist. One sport can lead to another. I see a lot of pickleball players that have never tried tennis. They see all the tennis going on and they want to give it a shot, and vice versa. Indeed, pickleball quickly caught on with members. We had people that were aging out from tennis, Kernan said. To play on a shorter court allowed them to continue to enjoy hitting a ball and swinging a paddle. Now we have over 150 of our members using those courts. Our goal is to get people enjoying racket sports and meeting other people, continuing to upgrade the facility so we are the premier facility in Rochester. The club has close to 2,400 year-round members, with over 1,200 active tennis, pickleball, and the pool for the summer months. Including junior members, the median membership age is 46. Attracting families and younger members has been a point of emphasis, especially through social media channels. There's a stereotype around tennis, less so than golf, that it's elitist, a little upper society, Grazik-Dan said. I kind of felt that way growing up in the city of Rochester. I never had the opportunities to play tennis, and I didn't pick up a racket until I was almost 20 years old. What sets TCR apart is how much we listen to our members. We spent a lot of last year altering our membership model to attract young families and create a wider reach, increasing our footprint on social media. The club continues to ensure youth players have a chance to learn the game and also learn employment skills. The junior program has more than 300 participants. Private and group lessons for adult and juniors are popular, and the club's week-long summer camps, with 32 youth participating each week or 8 weeks, sell out almost instantly, Kernan said. During the outdoor season, the club has 65 part-time staff members to complement the 10-member full-time staff. There are 25 part-time staffers during the indoor season. For those who are interested in playing more tennis but aren't sure if a club membership is what they need, TCR offers free, no-strings-attached, 30-minute tennis evaluations. It helps us gauge where they are in their tennis ability, whether they should be spending a lot of time in classes, if they should be working on a few things in private lessons, Grazik-Dan said. The club also brings some of the country's best players to Rochester every summer by holding an International Tennis Federation World Tennis Tour USTA Pro Circuit Tournament. This year's event, which is open to the public, will take place July 13th through 19th. By bringing the pros to town, TCR marks off another box on the Something for Everyone checklist. It's a community where people are making their best friends, Kernan said. It's definitely a life-enhancing sport and club. Regional banking experts say communication and planning critical for small businesses, by Andrea Decker. Local finance experts say uncertainty remains a defining challenge for small and mid-sized businesses. But strategic planning and strong banking relationships can help companies weather the current economic climate. Adam Bickle, Senior Vice President and Director of Business Banking for Five Star Bank, said elevated interest rates, rising operating costs, and ongoing labor shortages are continuing to pressure margins, forcing business owners to make more deliberate decisions around hiring, investment, and growth. This is the first time I've seen such uncertainty over whether rates will go up and down be so strong, said Bickle, who has worked in business banking for 2 decades. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, small businesses employ nearly 46% of the nation's private sector workforce, making their performance critical to regional economies like Rochester's, where small and mid-sized employers drive much of the area's growth and investment. Bickle said many businesses are responding with a more cautious and disciplined approach to expansion, focusing on sustainable growth rather than aggressive scaling. That includes tighter oversight of cash flow margins and more frequent overcasting and selective investments in efficiency and automation. He noted the sectors including professional services, skilled trades, healthcare, and portions of manufacturing are navigating the economic headwinds more successfully, while retail and hospitality businesses continue to face greater challenges. At the same time, Bickle said demand for business lending remains steady, particularly for lines of credit that provide companies with flexible access to cash as they manage uncertainty. Labor shortages are also continuing to reshape hiring strategies, with many businesses operating leaner teams while increasing investments in employee training and targeted outsourcing. Bickle encouraged business owners to maintain close communication with their banking partners, noting that a clearer understanding of a company's operations and financial growth allows banks to identify funding opportunities and programs that may support long-term growth. Disclosing the full scope of their operations helps us with the ability to plan, Bickle said. There are some programs we know of that may be game changers for them and help them hit their goals. Timothy Jones, Executive Vice President and Chief Lending Officer at Genesee Regional Bank, said maintaining open communication with banking partners can be critical for small businesses navigating economic uncertainty, noting banks are often aware of federal, state, and county programs that may provide support. Jones says the bank has remained disciplined in its lending practices and has seen many businesses take a more cautious approach to expansion projects and major equipment purchases amid elevated interest rates. To help manage challenging conditions, he encourages business owners to evaluate where price increases may be appropriate, reducing operating costs when possible, and work with vendors to negotiate more favorable terms that could ease cash flow pressures. Despite current headwinds, Jones remains optimistic about the Rochester area business climate, citing the region's long history of innovation, strong educational institutions, and abundant water resources as advantages that continue to attract emerging industries. Our region has opportunities, Jones said, emphasizing the importance of a thoughtful and measured approach. He also expressed hope that leaders at the national, state, and local levels recognize the importance of supporting small businesses. Small businesses are economic engines, he said. I hope everyone can see that. According to Keith Cleary, Senior Vice President and Director of Business Banking at ESL Credit Union, the small businesses that tend to succeed during difficult economic periods are the ones that stay proactive and are prepared. They may not be able to control the issue, but they can control how they act, Cleary said, emphasizing the importance of understanding the fundamentals of a business and identifying potential challenges before they escalate. Cleary stressed that transparency is essential, not only with employees and customers, but also with vendors and financial institutions. He noted that maintaining open communication with banking partners early can create more opportunities for support and solutions before problems become more serious. Relationships are built between transactions, he said. He also encouraged small business owners to pay close attention to indicators such as the strength of their sales pipeline and whether customers are paying invoices on time, noting both can serve as early warning signs of financial strain. Despite ongoing economic pressures, Cleary said the Rochester area businesses continue to demonstrate resilience. He pointed to continued investment and development activity throughout downtown Rochester and surrounding suburbs as encouraging signs for the region's economic outlook. Despite the challenges, we are seeing a considerable amount of investment in Rochester and the surrounding areas, he said. Mary Amiel Stone, Senior Vice President and SBA Lending Manager at M&T Bank, said funding to local companies through the Small Business Administration program remains robust. Such lending ranges from traditional funding options, including express loans, to newer offerings such as the MARC, Manufacturers Access to Revolving Credit Program, a specialized 7A loan product designed to provide small manufacturers with flexible working capital of up to $5 million. While the proposed FY 2027 federal budget includes a double-digit decrease in year-over-year SBA funding, Stone said she is not overly concerned, noting regional businesses continue to have access to a variety of funding resources to meet their needs. She said small businesses continue to face challenges, including difficulty finding qualified workers, interest rate volatility, and fluctuating energy costs. Still, those companies remain key drivers of economic activity and job creation across the region and have proven resilient and adaptable. There are headwinds, but we have a strong foundation here, Stone said, stressing the importance of working with a team of advisors to help ensure success. Relationship banking is more important now than ever. Industry leaders urge New York businesses to prepare for semiconductor supply chain opportunities, by Andrea Decker. When most people think about the semiconductor industry, they picture massive fabrication facilities producing the computer chips that power everything from smartphones to automobiles. But according to industry leaders gathered at recent NY Smart Eye Corridor Semiconductor Summit, the real economic opportunity lies far beyond the factory floor. The chip facility is the tip of the iceberg, and 90% of the iceberg is under the water, said Ananth Iyer, Dean of the University at Buffalo School of Management. There's a lot more going on besides the clean room. That submerged portion represents a vast and growing network of suppliers, equipment manufacturers, logistic providers, warehouse operators, engineering firms, and service companies that support semiconductor production. As New York continues to attract billions of dollars in semiconductor investment, these supporting industries stand to benefit significantly. That was a major theme of the summit, held at Rochester Institute of Technology's RIT Inn and Conference Center, which brought together manufacturers, researchers, startups, economic development organizations, and supply chain partners from across upstate New York. Their goal? Identify ways to strengthen the region's position within one of the nation's fastest-growing advanced manufacturing sectors. The timing is significant. The New York Smart Eye Corridor, led by the Buffalo Niagara Partnership Center State CEO and One Rock, is one of only 12 federally designated tech hubs in the country. The initiative has secured more than $50 million in federal, state, and matching investments aimed at accelerating semiconductor innovation, workforce development, and supply chain growth. For businesses across New York, the message from industry leaders was clear. Semiconductor growth is creating opportunities well beyond chip manufacturing itself. A keynote panel featuring executives from Global Foundries and Edwards Vacuum highlighted the increasing need for localized supply chains as the United States works to strengthen domestic semiconductor production. Global Foundries, one of the nation's largest semiconductor manufacturers, operates 4 facilities, including 2 in New York, and generated roughly $6.8 billion in revenue in 2025. Edwards Vacuum, which supplies critical vacuum systems used in semiconductor manufacturing, recently opened a $140 million facility in Genesee County that is expected to employ nearly 300 workers. Those investments create demand for thousands of products and services supplied by other businesses. Diane Kaptein, Director of Global Supply Management at Global Foundries, noted that semiconductor expansion will require a broad range of support, including specialized equipment, materials, transportation services, warehousing, and engineering expertise. Similarly, Edwards Vacuum General Manager Dan Papsidero said the company's operations require thousands of individual components, creating opportunities for suppliers throughout the region. However, panelists stressed that success will require long-term commitment. Companies interested in serving the semiconductor industry must be prepared to invest in quality systems, workforce development, and operational capabilities that meet the sector's demanding standards. We need to approach this with a long-term ecosystem mindset, Papsidero said. That ecosystem approach was a recurring theme throughout the summit. Discussions focused on workforce development, startup funding, intellectual property protection, research collaboration, and cross-border supply chain integration with Canada. For state leaders, the challenge is ensuring New York businesses are positioned to capture the economic benefits of the industry's rapid expansion. Meredith Andriucci, Senior Vice President and Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Semiconductor Expansion Management and Integration, said businesses from across the state are increasingly asking how they can participate. "This is the most significant industrial expansion of our lifetime," she said. "Our goal is to make sure New York companies are ready." You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Rochester Business Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Rochester Women's Giving Circle awards record $265,000 to support women and girls by Andrea Decker. The Rochester Women's Giving Circle has made the largest annual grant distribution in its 19-year history, awarding $265,000 to 12 local nonprofit organizations working to help women and girls achieve economic self-sufficiency. The record-breaking investment brings the Giving Circle's total grant-making to nearly $3 million since its founding. Since 2020 alone, programs supported by the group have served more than 3,200 women and girls and helped roughly 1,000 women secure employment. The Giving Circle, which consists of 170 members, pools charitable contributions to support initiatives that provide education, job training, mentorship, career advancement, opportunities, and other services aimed at helping women build financial independence. This year's grant cycle underscored the growing challenges facing nonprofits and communities they serve. Nearly 75% of applicants requested grants of $20,000 or more. The total funding requests exceeded $800,000. Organizations supported increasing demand for services as women and families grapple with rising housing costs, economic uncertainty, and mental health challenges. At the same time, many nonprofits are navigating reductions in funding from other sources. Nonprofits are dealing with the loss of other funding sources. At the same time, they are trying to meet surging demand for services, said Dawn Perry, Collective Giving Officer at Rochester Area Community Foundation. The size of this grant round now, made possible by people who refuse to let this work falter, is incredibly meaningful. Beyond financial support, the Giving Circle emphasizes long-term engagement with its nonprofit partners. Each funded organization is paired with a member who serves as a liaison and advocate throughout the year, attending events, providing support, and help raise awareness about the organization's mission. Membership in the Rochester Women's Giving Circle is open to anyone who contributes at least $450 annually. This year, 16 members participated in a 6-week review process to evaluate grant applications and determine funding awards. NTID names first Deaf Woman Dean by Andrea Decker. Rochester Institute of Technology's National Technical Institute for the Deaf has selected Flavia S. Fleischer as its next dean, marking a historic milestone as the first deaf woman to lead the college. The appointment, announced by Caroline Solomon, NTID President, and Prabhu David, Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at RIT, follows a national search. Fleischer will assume the role on August 1st. Fleischer joins NTID from California State University, Northridge, where she served as chair and professor of the Department of Deaf Studies. Her career also includes leadership positions at Utah Valley University, College of the Canyons, and Saddleback College, where she helps shape American Sign Language and Deaf Studies programs. Dr. Fleischer stood out among an impressive field of candidates because of her expertise in deaf education and her deep commitment to students, Solomon said in announcing the appointment. She said Fleischer's leadership will help the NTID continue evolving its academic programs to meet changing workforce demands while preparing students with both technical skills and leadership capabilities. David said Fleischer's focus on faculty empowerment and academic excellence will help ensure NTID remains a leader in preparing deaf and hard-of-hearing students for career success. A respected scholar in deaf education, Fleischer has authored numerous publications and presented nationally on issues affecting deaf learners. She also serves as co-principal investigator on a $1.25 million grant from the U.S. Department of Education Office of Special Education Programs focused on developing a pipeline of educators for deaf students. Her leadership expertise extends beyond academia. Fleischer previously served as vice president of the California Association of the Deaf as commissioner on inclusion and diversity initiatives at California State University, Northridge. I am thrilled to join RIT/NTID and serve a community I have long admired for its innovation, creativity, and academic rigor, Fleischer said. I look forward to working closely with our talented faculty and staff to ensure that every student has the tools, mentorship, and opportunities to turn their passions into impactful careers. Fleischer earned both her doctoral and master's degrees in ASL linguistics from Gallaudet University. She also holds a master's degree in interdisciplinary studies from California State University, Northridge, and a bachelor's degree in history from Gallaudet. Sun King relocates to former Crossman Arms facility in Bloomfield, by Kevin Oklobzija. Sun King Sustainable Solutions, the electronics recycling and refurbishing firm, has relocated from a leased facility in Brockport to its own building in East Bloomfield. Sun King moved into what was once the headquarters for Crossman Corps, which shuttered its Ontario County shooting sport manufacturing operations in 2024. The 219,000 square foot facility at 7629 routes 5 and 20 enables Sun King to add another shredding line and expand refurbishment and sales operations while maintaining space for future growth. The additional shredding capabilities will enable the firm to keep more e-waste out of landfills and process electronics on a greater scale. This new space represents more than just a building. It reflects the growth of our company, the dedication of our team, and our confidence in the future, Sun King President Adam Shine said in a news release. We're making an investment that will strengthen our business and allow us to continue delivering exceptional service. Sun King, through Sunshine Enterprises LLC, purchased the nearly 50-acre property in January for $5.75 million, according to documents filed with the Ontario County Clerk's Office. Since 2006, Sun King has refurbished and redeployed more than 100,000 electronic devices annually, keeping more than 500 million pounds of waste out of landfills. Leader of Rochester Nonprofits announces upcoming retirement, by Andrew Decker. Scott C. Benjamin, President and CEO of Charles Settlement House in the Community Place of Greater Rochester, Inc., announced his plan to retire in the first quarter of 2027. Benjamin, who has led Charles Settlement House since 2006, also took over the helm of the Community Place in 2018 when the organizations began an affiliation. Benjamin previously served as Director of Operations for the Salvation Army of Greater Rochester for 10 years, after a career in news media that included a stint as News Director at WROC-TV. During Benjamin's tenure at Charles Settlement House and Community Place, he shepherded the steps of shared services, followed by a permanent affiliation of the two organizations. The affiliation allowed the nonprofit agencies to share administrative functions and management, allowing greater investment in programs and services to work together for the good of the Rochester community. We have two stalwart organizations, and the affiliation has made them stronger and better equipped to serve children, families, and seniors in the northwest and northeast of Rochester, Benjamin said. Our extraordinary staff is dedicated to serving others. I am proud to have worked alongside them and to work with local, state, and federal government leaders and other nonprofits to provide vital programs and services in our communities. During Benjamin's tenure, Charles Settlement House was instrumental in the creation of the master plan for the Josana neighborhood. That resulted in the construction of Stadium Estates, 91 affordable homes in Josana, and led to other investments in the neighborhood. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Charles Settlement House and Community Place partnered with the City of Rochester and Monroe County to provide rental and mortgage assistance to keep hundreds of families in their homes. The organizations also innovated across all programs to provide essential human services during the pandemic without ever closing. On behalf of the Board of Directors, it is difficult to fully express our gratitude for the extraordinary leadership and dedication that Scott has given to Charles Settlement House and Community Place of Greater Rochester over the past 20 years, said Rick Nangreve, Board Chair. Through challenges and opportunities alike, his steady leadership, compassion, and unwavering commitment to our mission have inspired staff, volunteers, board members, and community partners. The Board of Directors has formed a search committee to lead the search for the next CEO. Charles Settlement House, established in 1917, serves Rochester's northwest neighborhoods, including Josana, Edgerton, Dutchtown, Brown Square, Lyle Otis, Maplewood, and Charlotte. The community place, established in 2001 from the merger of the Lewis Street Center, Genesee Settlement House, and Eastside Community Center, serves residents in Northeast Rochester. New nonprofit uses music education to bridge Rochester charter school funding gap by Andrea Deckert. A new nonprofit organization is seeking to expand access to music education in Rochester's charter schools, while drawing attention to a long-standing funding disparity between charter and district-operated schools. Sound Foundations of Rochester has launched with a mission to support and strengthen music programs across the city charter school sector, where leaders say limiting funding often forces schools to make difficult choices about arts programming. According to the organization, Rochester charter schools receive roughly $20,809 less per student than district schools, equating to roughly 42 cents for every dollar spent on students in traditional public schools. Charter school leaders argue that disparity has limited their ability to offer programs that many students elsewhere take for granted, including music education. Of the 9,200 charter school students, roughly 30% of the city's public school population, we estimate fewer than 2,000 are meaningfully engaged in music education, said Joe Klein, chair of the Sound Foundation's board and a longtime advocate for urban education. Our mission to champion investment in public charter school music programs will combat the pervasive and harmful underfunding of charter school students in Rochester. The nonprofit describes itself as a coalition of educators, funders, school leaders, parents, students, musicians, and community partners working together to expand opportunities for young people through music. Several Rochester area charter schools have already participated in pilot programs funded by Sound Foundations, with school leaders reporting positive results. Sound Foundations is currently reviewing applications for the 2026-27 school year. Funding may support in-school music instruction, group ensembles, instrument purchases or rentals, sound production initiatives, and other music-related programming. Participating schools will track attendance, behavior, academic performance, and other metrics to evaluate the effectiveness of funded programs. Eleversity hosts a workplace wellness conference to combat burnout by Andrea Deckert. As burnout continues to drive turnover and workforce challenges across the region, Eleversity is bringing together local and national experts to help employers better support employee mental health and retention. On Thursday, June 11th, the Workplace Wellness Conference, Combating Burnout and Building Sustainable Workplaces, will share practical, evidence-based strategies employers can use to identify burnout, reduce risk, and improve retention. It runs from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Ridgemount Country Club. Human resource leaders are asked to solve employee burnout with limited tools and growing expectations, often without clear, actionable guidelines, said Deborah Campbell, director of Eleversity. We're here to help change that. Those speaking at the conference include Dr. Wanda Cooper, a workplace wellness consultant who has worked with businesses in the Rochester community for over 25 years. Burnout and unmanaged workplace stress are no longer just individual concerns. They are critical operational liabilities, Cooper said, adding that there are steps that can be taken to avoid employee burnout. Joining Cooper at the Workplace Wellness Conference are local experts, including keynote speaker Desmond Jackson, Deputy Executive Health Director at Monroe Community Hospital, Regina Grice, Director of Human Resources at Allendale Columbia School, Betsy Truax, Vice President of Equity and Compensation at First American Equipment Finance, and Wendy Knapp, Partner and Head of Labor and Employment at Law Practice Group at Woods, Oviatt Gilman. Celebrating financial and legal leaders. The Rochester Business Journal and New York Daily Record celebrated the Excellence in Law Financial Leaders Awards on Thursday, June 4th at the Joseph A. Floriano Rochester Riverside Convention Center. The Excellence in Law Award recognizes the various ways legal professionals make outstanding contributions to their organizations and work to make the Rochester community stronger. The Financial Leaders Awards recognizes financial professionals who have made outstanding contributions to their organizations and to the greater Rochester community during the past year. Tompkins was the reception sponsor. Connors and Ferris, LLP, was the experience sponsor. For more information about the Excellence in Law, go to rbj.net/event/excellence-in-law/ or nydailyrecord.com/event/excellence-in-law. For more information about financial leaders, go to rbj.net/event/financial leaders or nydailyrecord.com/event/financial leaders. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Rochester Business Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Downtown now surpasses 10,000 residents as housing demand grows, by Corey Putnam. More than 10,000 people now live in downtown Rochester, with hundreds of additional housing units planned or under construction. As more people seek walkable lifestyles with easy access to dining, entertainment, and community amenities, local developers and real estate leaders discuss what's driving interest in downtown living and what comes next for Rochester City Center. Downtown living continues to appeal to people seeking a walkable, connected lifestyle with easy access to dining, entertainment, and cultural experiences, said Tom Latta, Vice President of Leasing and Partner at Buckingham Properties. As more businesses and destinations invest in downtown, interest in urban living has remained strong. Latta says he and his team view every new commercial tenant as a potential amenity for the residents who call their buildings home. At Tower 280 and 260 East Broad Street, both connected by the Grove, each new tenant has contributed to a stronger residential experience, he said. From dining destinations like Bronca Midtown and Patron Saint to gathering spaces like Unwind and vice versa, each business adds another layer of vibrancy and convenience. Soon, he notes, Rimal Coffee House will provide residents and office users with another everyday amenity right outside their door. Every space we activate is an opportunity to further strengthen the downtown living experience, said Latta, adding that convenience remains a priority for many residents choosing to live downtown. Residents want amenities that enhance their daily lives, whether that's great restaurants, coffee shops, entertainment, fitness options, or gathering spaces just steps from their front door. Latta says Buckingham Properties is always looking toward emerging neighborhoods with potential for future residential growth. Right now, we have our eye on High Falls area and see great potential for the neighborhood, but it has consistently been underutilized, he said. With the buzz surrounding the upcoming High Falls State Park and the nearby ESL ballpark, there's a real opportunity to attract more residential interest. At the same time, he says residents' needs and expectations are constantly evolving, and one of the greatest challenges for property owners is staying ahead of those changes. Attracting residents is important, but retaining them requires continuous investment in the living experience, he said. Evan Galena, partner at Galena Development Corporation, says downtown Rochester's residential growth has evolved significantly over the past decade, both in the number of people choosing urban living and in the diversity of residents now calling the city center home. There's more diversity in unit type from end-user standpoints, Galena said. You have young professionals, empty nesters, students, a lot of medical-related folks through U of R, and a lot of families, too. We see a lot more strollers around, which is always a fun indication of the demographic. He says demand for downtown housing has remained consistently strong, with many recently completed residential developments quickly reaching high occupancy levels. At Galena properties like Innovation Square and the Metropolitan, he says interest continues to reflect a growing desire for walkable urban living, paired with entertainment, dining, and cultural and amenities. We continue to have strong demand, he said. Everything that has been built has been absorbed, essentially. As more residents move downtown, Galena says expectations around amenities continue to evolve. Walkability remains one of the biggest draws, with residents increasingly seeking neighborhoods where restaurants, entertainment venues, bars, and gathering spaces are all within a few blocks of home. You don't move to a downtown urban center to get in your car and go everywhere, he said. Galena points to the growing number of entertainment options downtown as another factor driving residential demand. In addition to restaurants, bars, and public gathering spaces, he notes that the theater at Innovation Square hosts an increasing number of events, creating another amenity residents can enjoy within walking distance of home. Still, Galena says public safety remains one of the most important factors in attracting and retaining residents. We need to make sure that our residents and people who work downtown feel safe walking a block, 2 blocks, or 3 blocks away to get lunch or dinner or to go see a show, he said. There's not a big enough investment we could make on the side of public safety. Access to everyday necessities like groceries also remains a challenge, though Galena believes Rochester may finally be reaching the population density needed to better support those types of amenities. He points to the milestone of surpassing 10,000 downtown residents as an important benchmark long viewed as critical for the sustained residential and commercial growth. At the same time, Galena believes downtown still has room to grow, particularly when it comes to home ownership opportunities. The majority of our market downtown is for rent units, Galena said. If people have an opportunity to have equity in their home through a condominium or something along those lines, it allows more growth from that standpoint in our center city. If you look 10 years ago at 5 p.m., the lights in office buildings went off and people went home to the suburbs, Galena said. That doesn't happen anymore. David J. Reedman, founder, president, and CEO of Reedman, believes growing interest in downtown living is being driven in part by broader shifts in housing preferences among two rapidly growing demographic groups, Gen Z and adults over the age of 55. What both of those segments are looking for is not the large colonial on a quarter-acre lot, Reedman said. They're looking for a walkable environment. They're looking for activities, entertainment, and dining in close proximity. Reedman says those evolving preferences have helped fuel demand for multifamily housing in downtown Rochester, where residents increasingly value convenience, density, and connection to neighborhood amenities. All of those attributes make multifamily housing in a village environment, in a city environment, in a higher density environment appealing to both of those segments, he said. As developers evaluate future residential growth opportunities downtown, Reedman says success depends not only on the housing itself, but also on the surrounding neighborhood experience. Walkability, entertainment, and public spaces, and safety all play important roles in attracting residents. We tend to look at amenities in a twofold way, he said. What are the amenities we have to provide on the property we're developing, and what are the amenities the broader neighborhood or community has to offer? Within the buildings themselves, Reedman says residents continue to prioritize practical amenities like secure parking, fitness facilities, gathering spaces, and strong security measures. Parking is still very important, he said. We're not Chicago, we're not New York, people aren't going to be reliant on mass transit. Reedman says continued economic development throughout the Rochester region will also be critical to sustaining downtown residential growth in the years ahead. We need to keep pushing on economic development initiatives and growth of our economy, he said. That needs to be supported by and will align with continued development of more housing downtown. At the same time, he says downtown must continue investing in entertainment, services, public spaces, and safety in order to maintain momentum. It all works together, he said. Reedman Companies recently completed the Neisner at East End, a redevelopment of the historic Neisner building at 49 East Avenue into a 54-unit apartment community featuring amenities such as coffee lounge, outdoor patio, pet spa, and shared fitness and gathering spaces. According to Reedman, the property reached full occupancy shortly after opening in 2025. The company is also moving forward with the conversion of Clinton Square at 75 South Clinton Avenue into a mixed-use property featuring more than 100 residential units on the building's upper floors while maintaining office space below. Reedman says apartment deliveries are expected to begin in 2027. Revitalizing Rochester's Legacy Buildings Through Adaptive Reuse by Corey Putnam. Adaptive reuse is gaining momentum across the country as communities look for creative ways to address housing, economic development, and preservation goals. In Rochester, developers and construction firms say adaptive reuse helps breathe new life into legacy buildings while strengthening neighborhoods and business districts. Restoring underutilized buildings can bring new life into an area, attracting more people and activity, supporting the surrounding businesses, and even spurring additional revitalization, said Jim McKenna, Senior Vice President at LaChase Construction Services. It can also provide an emotional boost by transforming an empty reminder of the past into a symbol of growth and optimism for a community's future. McKenna said adaptive reuse projects often offer advantages that new construction cannot, particularly when it comes to existing infrastructure, location, and architectural character. Often, repurposing an existing building provides savings in both time and budget, he said. Starting with a shell and perhaps some basic utilities already installed can pare both the scope considerably, depending on the situation. He added that many older buildings also feature unique craftsmanship and architectural details that are attractive to prospective users or tenants, while their locations can make them especially valuable in areas where underdeveloped land is limited. In city areas where undeveloped space is scarce, reuse can be a desirable alternative to demolition and new construction, McKenna said. With construction costs continuing to increase, McKenna said more local clients are exploring adaptive reuse across a wide range of sectors. As the price of materials continues to rise, we see a fair number of Rochester area clients considering adaptive reuse for many types of projects, including medical spaces, housing, and even schools, he said. It's a trend we expect will continue for the foreseeable future. At the same time, adaptive reuse projects can present significant challenges depending on the building's condition and intended use. McKenna noted that restoration work may involve hazardous material removal, structural upgrades, and unexpected conditions uncovered during construction. A building's age may make renovation or restoration more expensive and time-consuming than new construction, he said. McKenna pointed to LeChase's work on UR Medicine Saunders Center for Orthopedics and Physical Performance at Marketplace Mall as an example of how dramatically a building's infrastructure may need to change during adaptive reuse projects. Basic services, gas, water, electric, HVAC, that were sufficient for a retail store had to be upgraded for medical use, McKenna said. The shell itself also had to be reinforced with supplemental steel to accommodate the weight of equipment and other elements needed in a medical facility. Preserving a building's character while modernizing it also requires careful planning and collaboration, he said. It's a matter of time, budget, and focusing on the key elements that give the building its unique character, McKenna said. Even when original features are damaged or missing, McKenna said fabricators and specialty firms can often recreate historic details using modern materials and methods. He added that successful preservation efforts ultimately depend on close collaboration between the owner, contractor, designer, and, at times, preservation authorities. For Ed Kurowski, Executive Vice President at Pike Construction Services, one of the greatest advantages of working with legacy buildings is the craftsmanship and infrastructure already in place. The new buildings that are coming out don't have the same architectural features and the same materials that have been used in the past, Kurowski said. To build something new to match something that was built 100 years ago, you just don't see it anymore. It's not cost-effective. He added that many adaptive reuse projects also benefit from existing utilities and infrastructure already connected to the site. When you have an existing building, a historic building or a legacy building, that existing infrastructure is already there, so that's a huge advantage over new construction, he said. Adaptive reuse can also support sustainability goals by reducing waste generated through demolition and new construction. When we're always looking to be sustainable and really lessening the environmental impact on our projects, there's definitely reduced waste when it comes to an existing building versus a new construction, Kurowski said. Still, older buildings can come with significant unknowns that affect both project timelines and budgets. He noted that hidden conditions such as structural damage, outdated mechanical systems, asbestos, and lead paint can create unexpected complications during construction. To help reduce those risks, Pike increasingly uses building scans and other technology early in the process. We scan the building, we do the coordination early on, Kurowski said. That helps us understand and reduce that risk. Balancing preservation with modernization also requires careful planning, particularly when new electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems must be integrated into historic spaces. You want to minimize the disturbance of the building, Kurowski said. Minimize where you're cutting holes in the building and prevent altering or getting rid of something that's historical or has uniqueness to it. He pointed to Pike's restoration work at the Rochester Broadway Theater League's West Hurd Performing Arts Center and Auditorium Theater and George Eastman's museum as examples of how technology can help preserve historic character, while modernizing buildings for current use. More than secure. Designing schools where students feel safe. Architecturally Speaking, by Justin Schaefer and Darren Peters. Supportive learning spaces are safe learning spaces. With intentional design, school districts can create learning environments where students are not just safe, but also feel safe. Schools can respond to threats by introducing stronger interior and exterior security measures. The resolution is valuable, but raises an important question. How do we keep schools secure without losing the welcoming, supportive atmosphere that makes learning and connection possible? The authors of safety. Reducing the risk of threats requires a comprehensive and balanced strategy, one built through close collaboration among administration, emergency response personnel, design professionals, and the public. District administrators offer insights into building operations and daily procedures. Local authorities help inform preventative actions by sharing lessons learned from past events. Architects guide the integration of design, technology, and aesthetics to ensure safe and inviting environments for students and staff. With this group exercise, threats and vulnerabilities can be identified, and so too can opportunities to help students feel safe rather than just see security. When safety calls. School districts often include large-scale safety improvements in their capital improvement plans, CIPs, so that more of the scope of the work qualifies for state building aid. Site and building renovations, as well as new construction, provide time and funding for safety enhancements, and, most importantly, offer the opportunity to prioritize safety as a district-wide initiative. However, if vulnerabilities such as a non-functioning security camera or unsecured doors exist before large project planning begins, in-house improvements or capital outlay project (COP) are recommended for quicker resolution. Building your best safety solution. From lighting and fencing to high-resolution security cameras and license plate readers, it is up to the authors of safety to develop a district's best safety solution. Often, this involves a blend of active and passive systems that continue to evolve over time. Active systems typically require electrical connections, consistent monitoring, and notification systems, e.g. security cameras, building-wide paging and intercom systems, and access control systems. While highly beneficial for real-time monitoring and responsiveness, these systems can be costly and require ongoing oversight. Passive systems are those that do not require electrical connection, everything from the physical school environment to intentional design choices made to ensure electrical stability. Most security enhancements are passively designed and are included within the design of a CIP. Whether active or passive, or both working together, design consultants can help districts identify the safety solutions that best fit their buildings. The following are some design considerations to support environments where students are, and feel, safe. Lighting. Particularly during winter months and for after-hours extracurricular activities, proper lighting eliminates dark parking lots, sidewalks, fields, and building entry points. When paired with cameras, lighting ensures that blind spots in and around the buildings are addressed through adequate coverage. Brighter lighting allows for better facial recognition on camera, but the lighting design and layout should minimize light pollution to neighboring properties. Visible and audible notification systems, such as visible-only blue lights, can alert people outside to potential interior safety concerns and temporary building access restrictions. Windows. Windows improve visibility inside and outside occupied spaces while providing ample natural light as required by the New York State Education Department. Interior walls designed with windows create clear sightlines for added supervision and foster a sense of connection among students. Applying impact-resistant glazing or films enhances security while maintaining bright, open interior spaces. Points of entry. To be proactive, districts are redesigning entrances to engage visitors earlier. Establish pronounced boundaries with a single clear point of entry defined by a combination of sidewalks, lighting, signage, and a secure vestibule with a dedicated security guard and established order of operations. Doors within the vestibule can include access control hardware for remotely controlled entry into the building. Circulation. Managing traffic flow supports safe circulation for pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles while directing all visitors to a single point of entry. Technology. Security technology can be a powerful tool when implemented thoughtfully. Cameras and metal detectors may cause anxiety if overemphasized, but when subtly integrated, they effectively fill security gaps. From closed-circuit televisions to fully monitored security systems, technology is rapidly advancing. Common systems being explored by districts throughout New York State include license plate readers and door access control hardware. Though costly, particularly for hardwired systems, door access control devices with programmed lockdown buttons enable authorized staff to lock all doors with the touch of a single button, isolating sections of a building. All emergency services, police, fire, and EMS should be provided with full access cards and keys to ensure entry during lockdown events. Additional considerations. Walls and doors can be reinforced to withstand greater impact at a high concern entry points. Folding partitions can isolate a section of a classroom if a door cannot be secured during a critical event. Smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, as well as sprinkler systems, must be maintained annually. It is vital that any solution be accessible to all individuals and comply with local and state agency codes. From Windows' walls to license plate readers, safety design and technology should remain a top priority in any capital project. Effective safety management requires a balanced approach, one tailored to each building's needs and sustainable for district staff to maintain and monitor. Physical safety improvements should also be complemented by other measures such as identification badges, accessible signage, and clear communication strategies. A school's safe and well-designed physical environment creates a foundation that supports students' emotional, social, and academic development. AIA Rochester contributes a quarterly column entitled Architecturally Speaking, which features articles from its member architects. Justin Schaefer, AIA, is an architect and project manager with Labella Associates. Justin has over 10 years of industry experience with a strong focus on K-12 educational facilities. He stays at the forefront of emerging trends and pedagogical shifts that drive modern school design. Justin's project portfolio includes additions, renovations, and new construction, as well as building condition surveys and facility assessments. Darren Peters has over 30 years of experience as an electrical engineer in the K-12 sector and is a project manager at Labella Associates. Darren's background includes design and engineering of power distribution systems, lighting systems, LAN and telecommunication systems, fire alarm and emergency systems, and security systems, e.g. CCTV, access control, intrusion detection, and audio entry for K-12 projects. U.S. mortgage rates are staying high, and the Fed can do very little about it. By Michael J. Highfield, Mississippi State University. U.S. homebuyers can't get a break. The 30-year mortgage rate has been stuck at recent highs well above 6%, and now averages 6.48%, according to the data released on June 4, 2026 by Freddie Mac, which bundles and sells home loans. That marks another blow for Americans hoping to buy a home or refinance their current mortgage that had been locked in at similarly steep rates. It's also a sharp jump since February of 2026, when the financing cost of a 30-year mortgage has dropped as low as 6%. Pricey mortgages have been weighing on the housing market more broadly, which has not escaped President Donald Trump. He has waged an aggressive campaign to pressure the Federal Reserve, which sets the short-term benchmark rate, to make deeper cuts to the cost of borrowing. The new Fed chief, Kevin Warsh, has also been touting rate cuts since he was nominated by Trump, a reversal from his earlier anti-inflation stance. As a professor of finance, I have been asked why mortgage rates are rising even though the Fed has been keeping rates steady after a series of cuts in 2024 and 2025. The central bank actually has little control over the cost of home loans, and Americans may be stuck with high rates for a long time. How much can the Fed control mortgage rates? Not that much. The Fed directly influences the federal funds rate, a short-term interest rate that banks charge one another for overnight loans. Many people assume that mortgage rates move in lockstep with the Fed's decisions, but, in fact, they're driven primarily by financial markets. 30-year mortgages are long-term assets. Investors purchasing those loans, either directly or through mortgage-backed securities, are making decisions based on what they believe inflation, economic growth, government borrowing, and interest rates will look like years into the future. So, what does affect mortgage rates? Inflation is one of the biggest factors. Although inflation has declined substantially from peaks experienced in 2022 and 2023, investors remain uncertain about when it will return to the Fed's official long-term target of 2%, especially with elevated oil prices and the ongoing conflict with Iran. This uncertainty matters because when lenders originate a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, they're committing capital for decades. If inflation turns out to be higher than expected, the future payments that lenders receive will be worth less in real purchasing power terms. To compensate for that risk, investors demand higher yields for the higher cost of borrowing. The greater the risk, the higher the yield. Federal government borrowing is another important factor. The long-term budget outlook by the independent scorekeeper Congressional Budget Office projects continuing large federal deficits and rising debt levels in the years ahead. It estimated that Trump's massive tax and immigration bill, passed by the Republican-controlled Congress in 2025, will add $3.4 trillion to federal deficits through 2034. Financing the deficit requires the U.S. Treasury to issue large amounts of debt by selling Treasury bonds and other securities. When the supply of government bonds increases, investors may require higher yields to absorb that additional supply. And because the Treasury yields serve as benchmarks for many different types of borrowing costs throughout the economy, mortgage rates often move with them. In particular, mortgage rates tend to track the yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury note much more closely than they track the federal funds rate. What else affects mortgage rates? Adding another layer of complexity are mortgage-backed securities, which are made up of bundled loans that are sold to investors rather than remaining on a lender's balance sheet. Investors who own these securities face risks that Treasury bond investors do not. Chief among them is the right to refinance. Homeowners can refinance when rates fall, pay the loan down more quickly than required by the mortgage contract, or move unexpectedly and completely repay loans early. So investors generally demand a premium above Treasury yields when buying mortgage-backed securities to compensate for this prepayment risk. Otherwise, they would be stuck with a return lower than what they initially expected when they bought the loan. Since mortgage rates are high, the general expectation is that many homeowners will refinance at lower rates once they can. That means that the refinance risk is greater than usual, and it has kept the difference, or spread, between 10-year treasuries and mortgage rates elevated compared to historical norms, according to the Urban Institute's Housing Finance Policy Center. In short, even if the treasury yields remain stable, a larger mortgage spread could keep mortgage rates higher than borrowers might expect. This helps explain why mortgage rates don't always move in the same direction as Fed policy, and why mortgage rates have stayed high even after the Fed started lowering short-term interest rates in 2024. Why it helps to take the long view. Last, there's an important historical perspective that's often missing from discussions about today's mortgage market. Many Americans compare current mortgage rates with the extraordinarily low rates available during 2020 and 2021. When some borrowers secured 30-year mortgages at rates that were below 3%. Those were among the lowest mortgage rates ever recorded in the United States, the exception rather than the rule, and as a result of the Fed's emergency measures to steer the economy out of recession. In fact, through much of the 1990s and early 2000s, mortgage rates frequently ranged between 6% and 8%. Viewed through that lens, today's rates are far less unusual than many Americans would think. Mortgage rates have been around more than 2 millennia, surviving empires, kingdoms, depressions, wars, financial crises, and technological revolutions. The details have changed dramatically, but the underlying economies have not. Lenders have always demanded compensation for inflation risk, uncertainty, and the time of value of money. That's why mortgage rates aren't determined solely by the Fed, but by millions of investors making judgments about the future. And, at the moment, those investors remain cautious. This article is republished from The Conversation under a Creative Commons license. Read the original article at theconversation.com. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the June 12th issue of the Rochester Business Journal. Your reader has been Randy Silva. Thank you for listening.